Well, good morning, big guy. How was your first night in a teepee? Huh? You slept in a wigwam last night. How was it? Great. Well, let's get up, get showered. We gotta head back to Hollywood. We're hanging out with Vicky Hamilton today. Yep. Daze with Jordan the Lion, and that face begin now. Alright, well, it is time for us to depart the Wigwam Motel and head back to reality. Good times though. I highly recommend it. Yes, as a matter of fact, I have now. We're gonna go out vlogging with Vicky in a little while when we get back because a store is closing that Vicky worked at when it was something else, and she wants to go and tell us all the stories. And I called the branch and asked them if we could go in and film inside, and they said we could. So the remnants of a Tarantino filming location. You're gonna see it in the upcoming Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He rebuilt the Aquarius Theater and they're keeping it up until the movie comes out. There, if you look, you can actually see the Once Upon a Time posters beneath it. Well, today we're starting our vlog looking at what's catty corner to our location for today, just to give you a little idea of how in the rock and roll Sunset Strip scene we really were. Now, the store that you see on the corner used to be a record store called Licorice Pizza, and it was a pivotal place in Vicky Hamilton's life. So Vicky is going to give us a tour around and tell us some stories about Licorice Pizza.
This was from when I worked at Licorice Pizza. That was the logo, obviously. It's like most people don't know that Licorice Pizza is actually records, not pizzas. But this was me when I worked at Licorice Pizza in 1981-82. That was my boss, Joanne Petrovich.
And you said a Go-Go's display behind you.
Yeah, there was a Go-Go's display in the window, which we did an in-store here. And it was a line all the way around the block.
You told me a crazy story about that. What was that? The kid knocking on the door afterward?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's the same door, but there's like a little keyhole. And he was like going, Jane, Jane, take my number. And she's like, oh. No, it was Jane, give me your number. And she like put her number through the door to him, and she's like, but I won't be home for a long time.
She was touring.
She was going on tour.
How long did you work here? Now, you came out to Los Angeles with a job here already, right?
Oh, no.
No, you just...
No, I did a couple cocktail jobs before.
And how did you get hired here?
And then I got hired here by Gary Gersh, who I also worked with at Geffen Records down the street, and then Capitol Records. And now he does international at AEG, and I just met with him trying to get him to like put my bands on some festival dates in the UK.
So what was your job when you were here? What did you do? And
I was a record buyer. And I worked...
So you helped stock the shelves, basically. I mean, you were help be responsible for what came into the store and what was sold to people.
Well, records.
Right.
Like there was a paraphernalia buyer, a record buyer, an import buyer, all these different buyers. But I was also what they call a key holder, and I wore my key for that today. This key says create. But key holders were the ones that opened the stores. So, yeah, I worked at this store when it was Licorice Pizza. It's Oz now, but
now this was kind of like your first entry into anything music related in this town.
In this town, yes.
And then you went on to win a
Grammy. In
Indiana.
Yeah, but yeah, this was my first record associated job in LA, and you know what better placement across the street from the Whiskey A Go Go, you know?
Absolutely.
It was like I was watching Motley Crue go up and down the hill here and was like, who are those crazy guys?
Now, what was your first interaction with them?
They came in here.
Oh, you met them here?
Yeah, Nikki came in here.
They literally live not even a block away, right up the street.
Yeah, right up the street. And
next to you.
Well, I didn't live there yet.
Oh, okay.
But they did. And there was a cabinet full of like pins and buttons, like here on the side. And he and his then girlfriend Evelyn Roth, who was a fashion model from Germany, were like looking at pins, and then started talking about music. And he was like, yeah, you should come on over and, like, you know, we'll play some music and whatever. You should come see our band.
Were they well known yet? Other than, I mean, were they playing the Whiskey in places like that yet?
No, they hadn't even released Too Fast for Love yet. All they had was like a 7-inch single of, I think it was Toast of the Town, maybe? Yeah.
And then when they decided to release that 7-inch, you helped them a little bit here, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I let him take out records on my borrow book, which I never got the records back.
Of course.
So that was short-lived. But, yeah. Then I went to work for Alan Kaufman, which was their first manager.
And you said that you did some of the displays for their promotions.
Yeah, we had displays up here, and the one that I, like, got my finger stapled to the wall was over here on the right.
And what were the displays like? Did you come up with the displays, or were they the band's idea, or how did that happen?
It was of Too Fast for Love, their album jacket, and my friend Maury Howe at the time had the idea of making them into Valentines, like paper dolls on Valentine's, so that's what we were putting together.
Nice.
But then we also did a window display, which was in the window where it says store is closing.
Oh yeah, right above the cash register over there.
That we had mannequins from Sears, and they were holding Motley Crue paraphernalia. And then I called the band and I said, come on down here and, like, give me some effects. And we got whips and chains and hats and tarot cards.
They gave you their actual stuff?
Oh, yeah. Vince dumped a pair of pink panties in my hand from a chick from the night, like, before or something. Yeah. And I, like, almost got fired because I ordered so many Too Fast for Love on leather records for their whiskey show that was across the street. But the Motley Crue was, like, fluorescent pink, and you could see it all the way from their house up on Clark Street.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah. And they were walking past their fans as well, you know.
So what are your favorite moments here? I mean, how long did you work here?
It was around a year, you know. I just had a memory about Cindy Williams from Happy Days.
Yeah.
Like the import
and Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah. The import section was like over in the back corner of the store over here. Basically the formation is the same up here, but you know, now you could walk in from downstairs and come up. Like, we didn't have that, but that was the office, so the office stayed the same. Yeah, so it was a punk rock night at the Whiskey across the street, and these punkers were trying to get Cindy to, like, autograph their boobs and stuff with eyeliner pencils. And she got a little scared, so I walked her out the back door and down to her car. But right through here were all glass cases and bongs.
Oh, you guys sold, like, it was like a part head shop as well back then?
Oh, yeah, 80s.
That's awesome.
Head shop with bongs and pipes and all that kind of stuff.
I was just curious, because since I was, you know, I was so young then, I didn't know how open things were then. I started going to record stores in the 90s, and they were selling stuff, you know, basically part head shop then too, so.
You know, the Sunset Strip was different then, and there were, like, ladies of the night, you know, hanging out, and they were big customers of our paraphernalia section.
Oh, of course, the bands and the ladies.
Yeah. They would come in and entertain us at night, yeah.
Now, you said you worked here for a year, so what ended up happening? Why did you leave, or is that when you kind of took your step into managing bands?
Well, yes, that too, but I worked at 2 other Licorice Pizza stores. This became Oz while I was at Licorice Pizza.
Okay, so that was directly before this.
Yeah, so it was like, it became Oz, so I transferred to West LA and then North Hollywood.
Did you see what
West LA was like a little, I don't know, like, we sold a lot of classical records in West LA. It was not exactly the store for me.
When the scene changed here, did you notice the record sales and everything change with it as well, or is that kind of what closed it down?
Yes, but at this particular location, I mean, we were down the street from Tower Records.
So there's a lot of competition. That's what I was wondering.
With Tower. I mean, the only thing we had better was location across from whiskey. But, you know, Slash worked at that Tower, a lot of different people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, I mean, they even did like a, I want to say a live show for, Use Your Illusion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think they played in the parking lot. That's what I'm remembering.
Oh, wow.
But,
yeah, that was really famous for having a lot of
yeah,
in-stores.
a lot of bands played in the parking lot at Tower. We didn't get that lucky. We just had in-stores, but like Duran Duran and
yeah, what are some of your favorite
Furs.
in-stores? Were those your favorites? Or?
Well, they didn't do in-stores, but they came in because they all played the Whiskey and the Roxy.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, they came in to see their displays and would give us tickets and things like that. It was pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
So, like you said, it was a great location for like kind of running into the bands of the day.
Yeah, they all came in here. We had a really righteous import section.
Does it kind of blow you?
That was like kind of a good draw here.
Does it blow you away now that the record store idea is almost gone? I mean,
It's
people
almost
just
gone. I
yeah.
mean,
People buy
you know,
vinyl sometimes, but
it was weird because, you know, when I first worked in the record stores, it was 8 tracks and cassettes, you know, pre-CDs, and then it flipped over to CDs, and like everybody was like, oh my God, you know, it's like the record business will never be the same and all that. And I kind of equate that to what's going on with the streaming now. It's just,
totally. But I think it's also one of those things that's going to make a big difference in cultural, because a lot of things I got into were things that I heard in record stores, people playing that worked in the record stores, turning you on to things you wouldn't normally hear. And a lot of ways you don't get that anymore. You don't get.
Yeah. Now we got talk radio going on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just a different world altogether.
Yeah. It is different.
Video games are more popular than music almost.
Yeah. And while I was still working at this store, it became, you know, video rentals as well, which I like hated.
Oh, wow.
It was like when you rented a video in the beginning, it was like this big long form, you know, like pages of stuff to fill out. And I remember Squiggy brought back a well, the guy that played Squiggy, I can't think of his name now. But
David Landers.
Yeah, yeah. He came in and he brought back a video that he had for like months because he had been, you know, filming, and I like scolded him. I didn't really know who he was or anything.
Yeah.
So I made him buy the video, and then when he left, you know, the other person working in the store with me was like, oh my God, do you know who that was? I was like, no. So I apologize. I should have like let you slide on that. But I guess there must have been a lesson somewhere in it for you.
This is a hot spot for cast of Laverne and Shirley to shop, apparently.
I don't know why they were always in here, but they were, you know.
Now, there's a downstairs here. Was there any stories about the downstairs?
No, there was no downstairs other than stock when I worked here, so it was surprising for me that you could get up here from the parking lot. Like, you know, we used to hang out in the back parking lot here and smoke pot and stuff, but 18 years sober, almost 19, but that's what I did when I was like here.
Now, you wrote a book called Appetite for Dysfunction. Did you talk about working here in the book?
I did, yes. There's a couple chapters about it, and well, what is it, chapter 8 I think I saw on that one. But
I know a lot of people bought your book, so if you haven't got to chapter 8 yet, you can find out a lot more about
8, there's
the Licorice Pizza Daze.
And there's more about, like, right after that is Motley Crue. And
do you think that your association with them was probably a direct result of your personality meeting them here and just kind of the happenstance of being in the right place at the right time?
Yeah, I mean, Motley Crue were kind of the godfathers of the glam metal scene.
Right, you told me that it was like punks before that on this street.
Yeah, it was really punk. Like, I wrote in my book about some punk show at the Whiskey, and like the paddy wagon pulled up and they were like zip tying their wrists together, and they had them all sitting on the curb, and some guy with a big mohawk like got up and ran through the crowd because, you know, there was always a big crowd on the Sunset Strip because, you know, kids were out there handing out flyers, and that was when you could still put them on the poles. Like, they were like this thick on the poles, you know?
I heard a lot of people say, like, at the end of the night, you would just see tons of flyers all over the streets
All
and
over.
sidewalk and
Yeah.
everything.
Because everybody's handing you one, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, before you could send an email.
So it was actually you working here that got you into managing bands,
Well,
and eventually...
I brought a band from Indiana to LA. That's
Okay.
2, actually, and one went back, and the other one moved here, and then half of them went back, so I stayed. And those 2, like, put together a band and played, but, you know...
Do you want to tell everybody,
same.
like, how you ended up moving from Indiana to here? That was a great story you told me.
Well, it had a lot to do with Tom Petty telling me that I was a California girl and that I should move to LA, so...
It's kind of a hard thing to deny if he tells you that.
Yeah, well, I had it in my mind anyway, but that just kind of, like, confirmed it, that I was doing it, you know?
That's so cool. And
I mean, I had in my mind I was going to marry Tom Petty and he was going to be my husband, you know, the big fantasy land there, but...
But did you ever think in your life that you would win a Grammy producing a record with June Carter Cash, working with June Carter Cash? I mean, that's...
Well...
I
Maybe
often
not
wonder.
with her, but I always thought that I would be in...
You did? That's great.
Yeah.
Especially
I think
because
you have to believe that you can do it in order to be able to do it.
Because your background was so different than what she did. Can you tell them how that came about?
Well,
That was
not so different. I mean, she was like, you know, she was from the haulers too, you know, coal mining community, and she wrote a song called The L&N about coal trucks that I put on the record, Press On, which is the record that I made with her. So we bonded on a lot of levels, and, you know, Rick Rubin was the one that convinced me that I should do that record, and I was just like, you know, I don't know anything about country music. I can't do it, you know, and he's like, no, you're the coal miner's daughter. My dad was a coal miner before he was an electrical engineer, and, you know, I met her, and then it was just like on. I had to do it. You know? I loved
It was
her.
meant to be.
It was meant to be, yes.
I love that. I just love
Yeah.
that you know, it takes a big gamble to move across country, but for you it paid off in so many ways. I think you've gotten to experience a more exciting life than most people will ever get.
Yeah, I mean, I got here at a...
And you're still
Really?
doing a full plate of things. Every time I talk to you, you're working with someone new, you're talking to someone new, and they're all talented people. It's like
Yeah,
you never let up.
I've got 5 acts that I'm working with right now. 2 of them are going on the road, the Tender Beats and the Holy Knives, like next week. And I'm working with a band called the Alexis Kings from England, who are really awesome, and Damien Sage, who's a singer-songwriter, and just picked up a guy named Brandon. And Brandon's like, Brandon Paul is his name. He's like a little mini Slash.
That's
and now
awesome.
he's decided that he's going to start singing too, so we're like trying to transition him into a singer.
Yeah.
And I think tomorrow I'm picking up a guy named Dag, so we'll see.
It's
We're
amazing.
meeting, yeah.
I love that. Like I said, it's, you know, it's weird the turns that life takes, but for you, a lot of it started in this town right here, and it's kind of cool
In
to
this
see
very room, pretty
what you've
much.
accomplished.
A fishbowl type scenario with free licorice, red licorice, and there was a bum guy that would come in every day and like try and snag the licorice, and I would always take it out for him and hand it to him so his hands would not get inside the jar. This is where Jane Whelan put her note through to the guy to like give him her phone number when she went on tour.
It's the same, you said same door.
Same door. Yeah, there used to be a Ozzy Osbourne display up there, and it was very rickety. We always thought it was gonna like fall down, but it never did, thankfully.
Do you remember what album it was for?
Bark at the Moon, I'm thinking.
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah.
An Ozzy Bark at the Moon figure up there that was wobbling around in the wind. So the main reason that we decided to do this vlog today is because not only is the Oz store getting torn down, but the whole block, including, as I understand it, the VIPER room down at the end of the street. So we're gonna go down there now.
And I met Prince in here.
You said it was called Hippocampus?
Hippocampus, yeah.
And you met Prince there? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and I got a bunch of crystal balls in there. It was like the best place to get crystal balls.
So she said this whole block that we're gonna walk past is going down. So I figured I might as well show it for historical sake. They're saying that the Katana, that building next to the Comedy Store, is now purchased and they're going to tear that down. Had you heard that?
I have not heard that. Is that the one that used to be the brothel?
Yep.
Oh man. It's like we always got our booze in here when I lived with Guns N' Roses.
This is, isn't that's the phone booth, or that's the phone that Joaquin Phoenix called the, called 911 when River Phoenix was overdosing. Phone's gone, but... So there's the Viper room.
So this is the world famous Viper room. It was bought in 1993 by Johnny Depp, and he turned it into a famous nightclub. But prior to that, it was the Central, who hardly anyone would want to come. Had really terrible, like, fake brick behind the stage. But the Viper room put in a state-of-the-art sound system. I think it was like over $1 million in sound and stage, and it's a really little place. I mean, it holds like barely 100 people. So
yeah.
It was like a lot of power for such a little room. But prior to being the Central, it was called the Melody Room, which Bugsy Siegel and what's the guy's name? Cohen.
Mickey Cohen, yeah.
Mickey Cohen. Two gangsters were famous for hanging out at.
This place just always had kind of a dark history. And
yeah, it was pretty dark. I mean, then of course River Phoenix died here.
Yeah, literally right on the sidewalk that we're right here in front of.
And I had a Halloween party that night in the valley, and the next morning everybody was talking about, you know, River Phoenix dying here. And then it closed down for a week, and I was working with a guy called Patrick the Storyteller, who like saged the place and reopened it the first night that it was like back open.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But you know, this whole block is historical, and it's like, it seems like people in LA don't care that, you know, history is going down the drain, but
yeah.
I care.
I do too. That's why we're doing this.
This is like the block that, you know, was like Mean Street home for me in 1981 through probably 85. You know, I was down here all the time.
And think of how many people before you saw all the clubs that used to be up and down this row. You know, when it was still Dean Martin's club out there, and the Magambo and the Ciro's and stuff, and just how much is changing.
It's totally changed. And this is going to now be, I think, apartment buildings. They sold it for $80 million, okay? Wow. But they are going to put a new Viper room in it. I have that on good authority.
Oh, really?
So the bottom floor will have a Viper room. It will not be,
the same at all, though. It will
not be the Johnny Depp Viper room that we all knew and loved, you know.
Johnny Cash performed on that stage.
I mean, there.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Tom Petty, I mean, God, amazing acts performed.
A lot of people cut their teeth here at this Viper room, you know. I mean, I just saw Greta Van Fleet do their first show in LA at the Viper room. It was like you had about 8 inches. You were like this, you know. They packed them in like sardines, but it was amazing, you know.
When's it closing down, do you know?
I do not know, but soon, you know. It's like, it's all going.
Well, Vicky, thanks for coming out and showing us around this block that soon will not be here.
I know.
You said
sad.
Licorice Pizza has a Facebook group that people can go find out more about there. And then, of course, you wrote a book that has all of your history about the Sunset Strip and everything. Get it.
Appetite for Dysfunction.
Will you still sign it for anyone that orders it?
I will, and you can buy it off my website at VickyHamilton.com. It's Vicky with the Y. And hopefully you'll see it as a TV show or a movie in the very near future.
Spoiler alert! Thanks, Vicky.
Fingers crossed.
Well, that's it, my friends. We found out that the Oz store is closing in about 4 days for good. And they're going to demolish that entire block, including the Viper room. So I'm glad that we were able to go down there and have one last recollection. Want to send shout out thank yous to Mary Bob, Mike Nelson and Melanie Bannell for making contributions to my channel. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great night, and thank you, Vicky Hamilton, for telling us your stories. Good night, everyone, and goodbye.